Alright, we're all good to get started. We are going to be playing Rakdos, Midrange, and Explorer as usual. And hopefully we get lots of wins. Alright, I did not know that that was an avatar. Alright, we have no red mana, but we have 2 lands, 2 discard spells, Ritual Chamber, and a Mutavault. If we just draw a red land at any point, we're good to go. What is all this nonsense? Alright, let's take the Tidebinder. And then next turn we'll take the Vivian. They can have their 1/1. At some point in the future we'll draw a red source and kill that. Alright. Literally any land would be fine. A red land would be best. If not, then we're going to have a bit of a problem, but it'll be fine. Alright, as far as non-lands go, that is a castable spell. So I will cast it. Now, our merfolk opponent has very little going on, which is definitely a good sign for us. Like, they probably care more about the slow start than we do. I say as they top deck a Kumena. I'm not going to block. I'm going to attack with Menace, get my damage in. And I guess pass and hold up Mutavault. That has to be 3 merfolk to draw a card. And they have Mutavaults, so they can do that if they want to. Right, no attacks. I also pass, because they have 2 blockers, which beats my Blade of the Oni. Gosh, imagine if I had drawn a 3rd land a couple turns ago. We would be so far ahead. Alright, we got there. Let's see, that would need... That can't get indestructible or anything. It can just, like, draw cards and stuff. I'm gonna play the Unholy Annex this turn. If they want to Beseiju and ramp me, I guess that works out. Alright, and we pass. We have Withering Torment for Kumena and Torch the Tower for Mindspring Merfolk. Alright, they let us get the trigger. That's pretty huge for me. Are they just going to activate that? That makes sense. Alright. Now that they've drawn a billion cards, what do? Mindstring Merfolk seems pretty good. At least for situations like this. Alright, and then they get a Sentinel. Which means they get to draw a card off of Kumena if they want. Put a counter on the Mindspring Merfolk. And no attacks. Alright, we don't draw a second land. I'm just going to kill Kumena before that gets out of control. That doesn't get indestructible anyway. I'm just checking that again because it would be a horrible mistake to make. Alright, they just Beseiju me in response. That's fine. Alright, Torch the Tower doesn't do anything without Bargain. Yeah. Alright, so they get to draw their card. I will attack with my Menace creature. And hopefully Sheoldred will carry me through the rest of this game. Like, Shieldred plus a second Unholy Annex is a lot for them to deal with. I think I need to hold Blade of the Oni back to block next turn, potentially. Like, if they fire up all their Mutavaults, I am under a lot of pressure. Alright, I would love a land to kill a Merfolk. Alright, that's pretty good. So now I can play Shieldred and have Torch the Tower available. And yeah, I think Blade of the Oni has to be prepared to trade / chump block. Alright. They bounce my Shieldred. I'm going to kill their Silvergill Adept. Because it's 2 power. So if they want to activate this, that gives me more time, which I think, even with the card draw, is better for me than it is for them. Now, they're just firing up Mutavaults, and I think firing up all the Mutavaults will do it. Yep, that's a lot of Mutavaults. Oh gosh, they can do that at instant speed. Yeah, I have to chump block here, and then I still die, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep. Alright. Cool, cool. We missed our 3rd land drop for like 3 turns in a row and still almost won, so I think this matchup is going to be pretty easy for us. Let's get rid of the Duresses since they miss almost everything. And get rid of Withering Torment since it's very expensive. And let's see, what else do we cut? Maybe a Torch the Tower, because it struggles to kill like Kumena and all that. They have lots of big merfolk. Alright. And this hand is so much better than the last one, it's not even funny. An opponent is mulliganed, so we basically win this game. Like Thoughtseeds plus Fatal Push plus Sweeper against their mulligan. Alright, 2 Deeproot Pilgrimages, a Hexcatcher, and some nonsense. I think I take one of the Pilgrimages. The Hexcatcher is scary, don't get me wrong, but the Pilgrimages are much worse. And this Fatal Push is going to be like solely targeted at the Hexcatcher. Play Blackcleave Cliffs. Alright, I'm happy to take 2 here. Alright, they play another little guy. And I think I go Mutavault, Unholy Annex. The life loss is risky, but I need the card advantage to beat them. They seem to be missing land drops a lot, which is definitely a plus. Let's see, none of those are castable at the moment. I'm going to try to Extinction Event them here. It just instantly works. Alright, so that makes the Hexcatcher a lot less scary as well, which is great. Unable to Scream makes Shieldred a lot worse. Let's play a Fear of Missing Out. Get rid of Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And fire up the Mutavault and attack with it. Get our damage in, get our life gain in. Alright, if opponent doesn't hit their second land drop soon. Alright, second land drop achieved. And they do nothing with it. Well, I'm going to play out a Shieldred and fire up a Mutavault. The game has cleverly tapped the one that could attack, because of course it did. And opponent concedes. Yeah, they missed their second land drop a bunch. That's way worse than missing your third land drop even. And also we just had a good hand. Like... Alright. No real sideboarding to do after game 2. Just an unfortunate game for them. 2 Fatal Pushes and an Anger of the Gods. We'll see if this is good enough. And a lot of black sources. Not super happy to see that. I need a second red source for the Anger. Alright. Mindspring Merfolk. I think we pass and try to Anger. So I think we play a tap land here and pass. This is risky if they have a Hexcatcher, or if I don't draw my red source at any point. Alright, there's Kumena. Kumena and do nothing. I think I kill a Mindspring Merfolk here. I should have done this in response to the Kumena. So now they get to draw a card. Alright. Second red source achieved, but Anger of the Gods is currently quite bad. I'm just going to play out a Blood Tithe Harvester and pass. Harvester can block, and it can crack a blood to turn on Fatal Push. Alright, so they can have that. Well, let's kill Kumena immediately. And they can do tapping things. Alright, the Hexcatcher is in play. But I have 2 mana. Alright. This is getting out of hand very quickly. Yep, they draw a billion cards. And then sack some of these guys. And I have to pay. And I have to pay again. Deeproot Pilgrimage plus Verdalian Hexcatcher is just not fun. Like, this sucks. Who thought this was a good idea? Alright. Well, that failed horribly, but I can kill the Hexcatcher, which I should have done that preemptively. Second Deeproot Pilgrimage. Oh boy. Oh, what a fun card. Okay, let's sack a blood token, pitching the blade. This is purely just to turn on Revolt, so that I can surely this time I will successfully kill Kumena, Tyrant of Erazga. And they won't simply flash in another Vordalian Hexcatcher. Of course, they simply have another Vordalian Hexcatcher. What fun. I sure do love Magic the Gathering. Yeah, now there are 2 Deeproot Pilgrimages, so like there's no point playing the game anymore. Oh boy. What fun. I don't you just love this gameplay of your opponent just counters everything you do forever, and it's not because their deck is good, it's because they got lucky. Like, I would much rather be playing against a good deck that was countering every spell I cast for the entire game than a bad deck that was doing the same thing. Oh boy, they have Tashana's Tidebinder in hand to counter the Blood Tithe Harvester, so I can't even kill the Hexcatcher normally. Yeah, we're done here. Opponent plays a deck that only works if they have exactly 2 copies of Deeproot Pilgrimage, 2 copies of Vordalian Hexcatcher, and Kumena, Tyrant of Erazga, and they had all of those things, so their deck looks good. It's actually bad. Like, Rakdos Midrange probably wins that matchup 70 to 80% of the time, but opponent got lucky. Madison 244, thank you for the follow. Sorry I didn't notice that by now if you're still around. Alright, this hand is fine. We need a second colored source for the Harvesters, but we have a billion looks at it and a lot of other things to do if we don't find it. Alright, let's play the Fear of Missing Out. Get us our first look. Add a 3rd land. Nope, didn't find it. Alright, we find it now. And I think we just slam Unholy Annex. And they're going to have to beat that with what is either mono black or is some sort of mirror match. Looks like mono black mid-range of some variety. So I'll play out my backup demon and go to combat and attack. And I will end the turn. If they don't kill the blade, this works. Yeah, Field of Ruin on its own, not stopping me from drawing here. They might want to do it anyway. Alright, this is good for me. It lets me hold up Go for the Throat. Alright, and we get our draw. Ritual of Soot, that's fine. Are they like mono black control, I guess? I'll play a Shieldred. It's not quite as good as having a demon in terms of life gain, because it just keeps me at even and keeps them at even, but still a pretty good card. Alright, Murderous Rider is going to be pretty much their entire turn. I think it's time to take a look at their hand. Double Phyrexian Arena, Ritual of Soot. Well, I'm gonna just take your 2 Phyrexian Arenas. And play a Blood Tithe Harvester, which is just going to die to Ritual of Soot, but forces them to use it. Dread Presence kills things and draws cards, and it's 4 mana. Alright, so I can play this on black. Torch with Bargain, sacking the Blood token. Get rid of the Dread Presence. Put a land to the bottom, don't need 6 of those. And play a backup Shieldred, because why not? They have 1 unknown card, which could potentially deal with Shieldred. Apparently it can. That's fine, I'm still drawing an additional card a turn. I find a Mutavault, which just dies to the Field of Ruin, but Ritual Chamber is not amazing with a Ritual of Soot in play, so I am just going to play a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And force them to use the Field of Ruin. Or Murderous Rider. That is better for me for them to use that, because that's another removal spell out of their hand. I do think I have to go for the throat on this Murderous Rider here. I am down to 10, mostly from my own Unholy Annex. Alright, so that dies and goes to the bottom of its owner's library. I still don't really understand why that line of text is on there. Has it ever mattered? Alright, let's continue playing out little guys and force them to use the ritual if they want to. Don't need this Fatal Push really. Find another one anyway. And we pass. So my ideal situation here is they have to fire off the Ritual of Soot to beat this board. Alright, this looks a whole lot like a Ritual of Soot. I'll triple block. Delete one of my things. Yep, alright, that is probably, if not lights out, very close to it. Like, I have these Fables flipping for infinite value. I have another discard. And I have a Mutavault. And I have a Demon. Yep, opponent concedes. Like, the only way they win that game is if I burn myself out, but if I'm gaining life, then that's not happening. So are they just straight up mono black Nykthos or something? Seems likely. Bring in the value stuff. Bring out 4 Fatal Push. And 1 Torch the Tower. If I brought out another one, what would it bring in? Probably just 1 Torch the Tower, just because I have nothing else to bring in. It seems like they're mono black Devotion, so probably like gray merchants and stuff. This is fine. Graveland Thoughtseize. They have Foulmire Knight. Well, I'm going to lead on Urborg. Double Phyrexian Arena. Going to take one of those again. And this is literally just like a 1/1 death touch that can draw a card if they do that ahead of time, which they didn't. I'm going to take their other Phyrexian Arena. Make sure that they have no access to sustained card advantage. Field of Ruin again. Alright. Let's start playing good 3-drops. Fable of the Mirror Breaker gives me a 2/2. They could Murderous Rider the Goblin Shaman, which would probably be a relatively good idea. They are just going to Field of Ruin my Mutavault, give me a basic Swamp. And Thoughtseize me. Probably take the Liliana here if I were them. It's like the highest impact card, right? It kills a creature. No, they take the Fear of Missing Out. I'm very happy to block here and just trade away resources. Like, otherwise they Murderous Rider it, and I'm sad anyway. I think I discard Withering Torment and keep the rest of these cards. Alright, didn't quite pay off. I have a Herb Organ play, and that's on an adventure, not as an instant. So I'll get rid of your Death Touch creature. And we pass. Alright. Third Foulmire Knight draws them a card and becomes a Death Touch creature. Let's see. Channel Takenuma seems pretty good. Maybe for later, maybe for now I'd play the Blood Tithe Harvester. And +1 on Liliana to get rid of this useless Duress.
You won't be outsmarted.
Oh wait, that was in their hand. What? Okay. Not going to complain about that. I could have sworn they had killed something with that already. Alright, they can make that attack, and I'm not going to block, because next turn I get Reflection Blood Tithe Harvester to kill the Foulmire Knight for free. Okay. They got a little bit of a free roll there. Well, I'm going to play Unholy Annex, play out this Takenuma, and start plussing my Liliana.
Don't overthink things.
Alright, we find a Mutavault, which is an additional demon. They just find a basic land. Yeah, opponent's deck seemed bad. I mean, maybe it's better if they have Phyrexian Arenas going, but why would you play Phyrexian Arena instead of Unholy Annex? It's just like a worse card in general. So definitely feel like our opponent did that to themselves with deck construction. Like, the only reason you would want to play Phyrexian Arena over Unholy Annex is for devotion purposes. Like, it gives you an additional point out of like a Gary or a Nykthos. But that seems super minor. Alright, this hand is fine. Got a turn 1 Thoughtseize. We've got other cards to play. Okay, Unholy Annex, Unstoppable Slasher. Both brutal cards. I think I take Unholy Annex because it's like Unstoppable Slasher can be dealt with via normal means, whereas Unholy Annex is quite difficult to do that. Ah, like Torch the Tower. That works out quite nicely. So Torch the Tower exiles, so it kills the Slasher permanently. I'll get rid of a Fatal Push. Draw another Fatal Push. Alright, I assume they're just going to slam the slasher here. Yep. Unstoppable slasher in play. Yeah, let's just clear the board real quick. Don't need another one of those, I don't think. And while we're at it, also kill the fear of missing out. So we have a nice, clean, empty board. And I think we continue that. Just keep the board clear. And win the game with Unholy Annex, drawing me a bunch of cards. Alright, they discard an Unholy Annex to Fable the Mirror Breaker. That is insanity. Alright, I happen to have Withering Torment to kill Shieldred. That's just a tap land. Right, we're not out of the woods yet. We're definitely still in the woods. I think I make a demon here to try to gain life and make a blocker. Seems to have worked. Lovely. They get even more selection. They put away lands. And they find a removal spell for my demon. So I just need to find another demon then. Or a Shieldred. Shieldred works too. Now these reflections are a concern. These reflections are definitely the sort of thing that can provide a ton of value. So I get a Blood Tithe Harvester as well, just as an additional blocker. Shieldred prevents me from losing life to the Unholy Annex. And then they get to do that shenanigans on end step. But they don't draw a removal spell for the Shieldred, and they concede. Alright. You love to see it. Let's take in all of these. Bring out Duresses. I don't know. Thoughtseizes are probably good in this matchup, actually. Like, I've been cutting them a whole lot, but the ability to take an Unholy Annex is just too important, I think. So let's actually just cut. Let's not bring in Reckoner, Bankbuster. And what do we cut? Blood Tithe Harvesters, maybe? Just like the worst of the creatures. I don't know. We're gonna try having Thoughtseizes in this matchup this time around. Alright, waiting on your opponent. It's like between the ability to like take on Holy Annex, 1-for-1 with a slasher, also gain information. I think Thoughtseize is probably worth it. Alright, turn 1 Thoughtseize. Turn 1 Thoughtseize, then Liliana and Fable to back it up. Of course, we get Thoughtseize first. Thoughtseize your Thoughtseize. Yep, Thoughtseize your Thoughtseize. Alright. Tap land, go. Blood Tithe Harvester. Blackcleave Cliffs, Fear of Missing Out, which is great. Gets rid of Sulphurous Springs, which is a terrible card. I think I take this block here, because now if they play a creature post-combat... Okay, Sure. So if they play a creature post-combat, I can eat it with Liliana. Whereas if I don't take that block, then Liliana just takes the worst of the two. So I don't know why they conceded there. Like, if you make an attack and blocking causes you to concede on the spot, just don't attack. Like, it's that simple. Alright. So far, the amount of good, interesting back-and-forth games have been very small. But that's fine. We've been on the winning end of a lot of the blowouts, so not going to complain too much about that. Alright. Double Thoughtseize, double removal. This hand does nothing proactive. Like, there's no card advantage or anything in here. But we're both going to be sitting around doing nothing. Alright, well, I'll take the Scavenger's Talent, obviously. This hand is not great for the matchup. It's not terrible either. As long as they don't draw an oven like this turn exactly, like these two cards, it's pretty fine. So they can claim the Firstborn here, like, just to deal damage. And they sack it. Yeah, I guess that is red removal. I'm gonna Thoughtseize you again. Did I just take the Lumra? Nah, I'm gonna take the Mayhem Devil. I think the Lumra is like a reanimation target or something. Alright. They've found a third land. And they attack me with a Cauldron Familiar. I'm just gonna push this stupid cat. Just get that out of there. They currently don't have any food or ways of making food. And I'm going to get rid of my fourth land drop. Well, I'll fire off the Duress to take the Fatal Push, which I guess will make my next creature better. Alright, absolutely not. Alright, what is Lumra doing? It's just going to be a 4/4. There are no lands in graveyard at the moment. They're getting uncomfortably close to casting it, though. And they have a Scavenger's Talent, which will make getting the cat back somewhat possible. Alright, so that's obviously still not going to be doing anything this turn, and hopefully not for the near future. And I would really rather have anything other than two Fatal Pushes which do nothing in hand. Blood Tithe Harvester comes with a blood token. And they can sack the blood token to discard the Lumra. Alright, so if I kill the Blood Tithe Harvester, that gives them a food to get the cat back. Yeah, this is incredibly awkward. But currently, we are sort of winning the race if you squint. Mostly we're just like here to get lucky and win somehow, so that we only have to win one post-board game. Alright, we have a Mutavault. That does very little. Okay, they have a Man Devil. Now we're in trouble. So are they just going to sack the Blood Tithe Harvester for no value just to get the ping? Yes. Alright, so this will activate my Fatal Push. And also give them a card. It'll give them a food and mill them some. Alright. Fatal Push the Mayhem Devil. It's another one down. And if I attack with a Mutavault, they just get the cat back, chump block, and then get another food. So we are not doing that. Okay. They get to do their whole milling and cat thing. And hopefully they just can't get all the permanents they need to get Lumra back. Because I don't know how I'm ever beating Lumra. Alright, they could have attacked there for a point of damage. I guess I can... No, there's actually just no point, right? Like, assuming they don't play wrong, there's actually just no point attacking. Alright, now they get to Deadly Dispute and generate value and an additional permanent. Feeling pretty dead here. Yeah, they didn't bring the cat back, which I could have used to kill it again if they had. So if they brought the cat back on their end step, I could have Fatal Pushed it, and they wouldn't have gotten a food since the Scavenger talent had already triggered. Alright. And they still don't have 3 other non-land permanents, so that's always good. Withering Torment on the Scavenger's talent is like the best draw ever. So I get to do that. And now I get to kill the stupid Cauldron Familiar. And they don't get a food for it. And now I can start attacking again. Alright. We're not out of this yet. Our top decks are certainly not being helpful at the moment. I have no idea what my opponent could have in hand that they're not using. Like, if they had removal spells, the Mutavault would be dead. If they had creatures, they would be in play. Alright, Torch the Tower, potentially great for getting rid of a cat permanently. Yeah, genuinely, what is in their hand? It makes no sense. Are they just flooding out like crazy? Well, I'm just gonna hit you for 2 damage a bunch. And if you die, I guess you die. Alright, land Mayhem Devil. Alright, Shieldred. We love to see it. Do I fire up the Mutavault and attack? And if they block, that turns on Revolt, and I kill the Devil. If they don't block, they're dead to Shieldred. Alright. Obvious bait is obvious. Kill the Mayhem Devil. I get pinged for 1. Down to 6. They crack it for white mana. And we cast Shieldred. And they draw a card, which puts them to 1. And we win game 1. Alright, that is huge. That is enormous. Bring in Unlicensed Hearse, Anoint, Extinction Event, Anger, Hidetsugu consumes all, Invoke Despair, the old bring in almost our entire sideboard. Fatal Pushes are atrocious, Torch the Towers are bad. Go for the Throats and stuff are fine because they can hit like the bigger things, like the Mayhem Devils relatively easily. I think it's probably the Blood Tithe Harvesters and Fear of Missing Outs that go. We have a billion sideboard cards. We're gonna lock them out and win eventually somehow, probably. You know it's a wild matchup when you bring in literally 11 of your sideboard cards. Alright, currently waiting. Currently waiting. Opponent still sideboarding. Let's see. What sort of things do they have against us in the sideboard even? I don't know. I should look more at the sideboards of my opponent's decks. It's like something I did a lot when I was playing Phoenix, because they have like hate cards that shut you down entirely, so you need to be ready for them. But I sort of just haven't been thinking about it with this deck. And to be fair, that's because this deck doesn't really get sideboarded against very well. Like, they're just bringing out mid-range stuff and bringing in better mid-range stuff for the most part. So it doesn't really matter. But it would be nice to know. Opponent is using all of their sideboarding time. Just every last second of it. Alright. Either they have run out of sideboarding time, or they have finished sideboarding. Alright. They seem to have left the game. Okay, put another one on the tally for games that weren't satisfying or fun, because my opponent has decided to leave and waste my time. Okay. Well, here we are. So yeah, I guess we're sitting here. While we're sitting here, make sure to follow if you haven't already. I do Magic the Gathering on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 5. And I play Satisfactory Monday, Wednesday, Friday, same time, 2 to 5. Eastern time, I guess. I should probably specify that. And yeah, play mostly Rakdos midrange in Pioneer in Magic. I do drafts when I can, but I am free to play, so doesn't happen often. And yeah, Satisfactory. We are currently building like a mega base type of thing where we have lots of tractors moving things about and using lots of blueprints. It's very fun. Alright, opponent has almost run out of rope, so we almost get to play again. Alright. We've done it. We have managed to defeat the cat deck in one game, and then they left. Alright. Let's try to not go an entire hour of streaming without a single back and forth match. Let's try to find something fun. Alright, opponent has Oko Avatar. Yep, hand's great. We've got Thoughtseize, and we've got interaction, and we've got value stuff. Okay, opponent is playing mono red. So I think we just ignore the Thoughtseize. At least for now. Oh god, it's not mono red, it's goblins. That is so much worse. Okay. Well, I'm going to discard the Thoughtseize to fear of missing out. We get a Fatal Push, which is definitely good, but they have a Krenko on top, because of course they do. Just... okay. And they're gonna get to untap and do all that again in their upkeep before draw. Probably shouldn't be attacking, but ah well. Let's get rid of the duress, try to find anything relevant. Oh boy, my opponent has a horde of goblins. Oh, better lucky than good. That's what they always say, right? Really? Howl Squad Heavy. On top of everything else. They just ripped a Howl Squad Heavy. Of course they did. Okay, well. I'm playing an Unholy Annex and firing up a Mutavault. This gains us some life. Declare no attacks. Draw another Thoughtseize, which is useless. They're going to be empty-handed. Oh, hey, look, it's Krenko with haste. I'm sure this is fair and reasonable. And... alright. Yeah. Imagine if opponent didn't have a Krenko on top, and then none of that would have happened, and we would have had a very different game. So let's bring in all of that interaction. Thoughtseizes are actively detrimental. Withering Torment, actively detrimental. Duress misses almost everything. I guess we bring in Anoint Liliana and I mean a Duress I guess probably can hit something relevant. I don't know. Right. Like hopefully we just Anger of the Gods them and then it's fine. But I think we might have to add another one onto the tally of games that weren't very fun. All right. This is like zero interaction. Like one Fatal Push is not going to be enough. Maybe Fatal Push plus a bunch of blockers will be enough. It's definitely not going to go well for me, but going to 5 probably isn't either. I think we keep this bottom Takenuma and hope that they aren't as lucky as they were last time. Well, start playing Blood Tithe Harvesters. Jack, what now? Other creatures you control gain haste. Put a 1/1 counter on this creature. Okay. This is just one of those sorts of things. Sorry about that. We're gonna discard that. Ooh, Hidetsugu consumes all. That's fun. Do I just Blood Tithe Harvester kill that? I think so. Just keep their ways of getting haste off the battlefield. Should help a lot. And we'll also get rid of this Blade of the Oni. Alright, which of these 3 great cards do I get rid of? I think it's Fatal Push, honestly. It's tough, but the other cards do way more. I think we attack with one of them there. Just start putting on some pressure in case they have very little. Alright. Do nothing with Fable. That's worrying. Conspicuous Snoop. They can activate that exhaust ability on the Conspicuous Snoop, which isn't that great for them. And Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Just an attack to get a treasure. Yeah, we're gonna block here. They're gonna boost up their Goblin Shaman. And I think we hold on another turn before using Anger, or Hidetsugu consumes all. So this way we get the reflection as well. There's a mountain on top. Alright, so that could like just make them a bunch of 4-mana dragons, I guess, if they exile that with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Alright. Play a Shattered Skull Smashing untapped. Attack in with the boys. I block the Snoop so that they'll Agatha's Soul Cauldron to save it, which means the Goblin Shaman won't live the Anger. Although now that has the stupid exhaust ability as well, so it just doesn't actually work at all. Maybe they'll mess up. Maybe they won't save most of their board. They make a dragon. And they save the Goblin Shaman. And then they use a treasure to save the Snoop. Yep. Opponent is definitely playing the same game that I am. Well, I'll blow up a lot of their stuff. And now you're left with a Conspicuous Snoop. Which has already used both of the exhaust abilities, I think. And they have Den of the Bugbear and Ramanap Ruins. Yep, this is gonna be another entry into the list of games which should have been easy, but my opponent got very lucky, and therefore they were not easy. So much for getting out of Platinum. Alright, let's try that again. Alright. Currently waiting for an opponent. Alright, find one. And they have the Veteran Explorer tag, which is interesting. Alright, 2 spell hand, no good. This is great if they're a creature deck. Does literally nothing if they aren't. Alright, this hand is fine. We will get rid of 2 lands and lead on a Thoughtseize. Okay. It's someone tripped and fell and dropped their self-bounce deck next to their mono-red aggro deck. So I will take the Storm Chaser's talent with my Thoughtseize. Alright. Shocking in here is almost definitely not worth it. We're just gonna hopefully get them to Monstrous Rage and Fatal Push the Swift Spear. And if they don't, then we can duress and take the Monstrous Rage in the future. Alright, they are thinking real hard in their pre-combat main phase. We play a basic mountain. They Bolt Wave, as expected. And they go to attacks. Yeah, I think there's no way I can just casually take 2 here. I have to Fatal Push that. Leaves the Monstrous Rage in hand, but I can take it, or I can take something scarier. Alright, Duress, show me something good. Will they Burst Lightning in response? Alright. Burst Lightning, Bolt Wave, Monstrous Rage. I think I take Monstrous Rage because it's like the biggest risk, right? These 2 cards, I know what they're going to do. They're going to deal 7 to me over the course of a turn or 2. Monstrous Rage could blow me out, kill my Shieldred, make me very sad. Burst Lightning deals 4. Bolt Wave is only to opponents. Shieldred is currently safe. They need to target 2 burn spells at Shieldred in order to kill it, and if that happens, that's gaining me at least 5 life, so sure. Play Mirex, play this thing. +1/+1 trample haste, and you get a monk attached to it. Alright, and the monk has prowess. Alright, I have gained life off of Shieldred. Success. Now this is going to be a problem. Alright, so they do that, they get their Otter. If I block with Shieldred, I lose Shieldred. If I block with Mutavault, I lose Mutavault. I think we just pass. I think we just pass and have the Shieldred life gain hopefully doing work. They could deal a lot to me here if they cast the Burst Lightning, but... Alright, so they've cast the Burst Lightning at something other than Shieldred, which makes things a fair bit simpler for me. Drawing the Fear of Missing Out is fantastic, as is drawing the Unholy Annex. So this is neutral life this turn and draws me a card, and all future turns it'll be life total positive. Now I just need to worry about getting rid of these stupid monks. Alright, they concede, they saved me the trouble of figuring it out. Bring in Angers. lots of tokens. Hidetsugu consumes all is great. Absolutely never playing Thoughtseize against the Boltwave deck. Never playing Withering Torment against the Boltwave deck. Liliana could be good. And then I could bring in Anoint with Affliction and Extinction Event. I'll bring an Extinction Event as a sweeper. And take out... what do I take out? Blood Tithe Harvester, maybe? Not convinced that blockers are going to be super powerful here. Don't want to take out too many blockers, but I'd much rather just kill the creatures. Alright, this hand is great, but it is also double Blood Crypt. Alright, they have Storm Chaser's talent already in play. I think I shock Duress you and take Monstrous Rage. And I think that saved me a fair amount of life, so probably happy with that. They top deck the stupid Cutter. That makes things so much more difficult for me. Alright, tap land, go. Get the Blood Crypt in untapped while I can. So that can be 4 mana or get the Monstrous Rage back if they want to. They're just going to be equipping the Cutter. Going to combat. And get Fatal Push Nerd. They can Spell Pierce this, and then I'll just untap and Fatal Push it again. I guess I could have done that post-combat to save a point of life. Small mistakes. If I die exactly, we'll know why. Alright, they have stock up. So I guess that's why they're in blue. Like, blue-red Spellslinger seems mildly interesting. I guess stock up is a good card. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not sure it's good enough to justify this. Restless Spire is creature land. Not a particularly exciting one. Alright, I don't want to play Unholy Annex and start dealing damage to myself. So I think we just pass. They get 2 spells, which gives them a pair of monk tokens. And their second spell is another stock up. So I think I want to torch the tower one of these and Fatal Push the other immediately. Both to save life and so that I don't have to anger the gods on my next turn. Alright, we didn't draw anything. We didn't draw a 4th land for the Unholy Annex, but we did draw a Fable, which should find me a 4th land. Monastery Swiftspear. Bolt Wave. Alright, well, that's terrifying. I will chump block. Take 4, potentially more. Oh, Monstrous Rage. Monstrous Rage. What a fair card. I'm dead now, right? Like, that just killed me. Yep, and I died at 0, so that point of damage I took earlier did matter, but also my opponent is playing Monstrous Rage, so really, like, does anything matter? Can't keep a one-lander. This is fine, but not exciting. I think 2 lands is like the ideal opening hand. You'll find the third. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Alright. Get rid of that stupid thing. And play a Blade of the Oni. So if I draw a land, Unholy Annex is great. If I don't, I can still Blood Tithe Harvester. Alright, land drawn. Unholy Annex played. And I guess I'll chip in for 3. Not blocking the Slickshot Show Off with my ground creature. Alright, just Emberheart Challenger. Alright, let's kill the Slickshot Show Off. Shock in a land and play Blood Tithe Harvester. And no attacks this time to have multiple defenders. Alright. Paying a life for Shivan Reef to get blue, and opting gives the Challenger Prowess, which doesn't change any math at the moment. Witchstalker Frenzy does some stuff. I think I just take this block here. So if it forces them to at least do something. And that something is a Burst Lightning targeted at my other guy. Alright, well, I'm going to play Sheoldred and hope it's enough. And they can Witchstalker Frenzy to kill Sheoldred, so it's not even that great, but at least it's something. So they have this card, which can kill Sheoldred at any point, so if given the opportunity to block, I will. I'm not given the opportunity to block. I'm still looking pretty good in terms of life total. Give me a demon. That'll be fun. And I guess play a Takenuma. Yeah, my opponent has just completely failed to deal damage to me this game. Like, they've kept my board clear and everything, but I'm at 18. So... Alright, stock up. Gets them 2 cards. And triggers Prowess. And they say good game. I assume that means the 2 cards they found off stock up weren't enough. Alright. Yeah, we finally got a back and forth game where decisions mattered. You love to see it. Win 1 more and we're in Diamond. I think that's how the ranks work. Maybe completely real. I don't keep track. Alright, currently waiting. Alright, find an opponent, and they have the Garruk Avatar, which means potentially a green deck. Nope, they are Yorion deck. Of course they are. Well, cast Duress. What is all this nonsense? United Battlefront. Oh, that's the card that gets you, like, 2... like every card you could ever want out of your deck. Yeah, I'm just going to take the Caretaker's Talent and the Wedding Announcement. You could have your Carrot Cake. It's fine, it doesn't really do anything. Double United Battlefront is scary. Scarier than Wedding Announcement? I think not, actually. Play a tap land here. Don't really foresee myself needing to Fatal Push that. And this is just like sorcery speed collected company, basically. Okay, let's get a second red source and play Fable. Alright, they sack the Carrot Cake to get another 1/1. And now we'll see if their United Battlefront gives them, like, I think the Angels player I got 2 of the best card in their deck off of this. Now this is a Yorion deck. And they get Portable Hole plus Wedding Announcement, so the illusion of choice. I took their Wedding Announcement, but little did I know they had another one. They attack, which draws them a card. I don't even know if that's right. Let's get rid of double Fatal Push here. And play Shieldred. That's a pretty good top deck. And Perilous Snare. Alright, rest in peace, Shieldred. Your life was short but fun. And I'm still getting chipped in with against random 1/1s. Alright, let's play Fear of Missing Out. Get rid of this extra land drop. Play a Blade of the Oni. Right, now my board is good enough that they shouldn't be attacking this turn. And also they've declined making tokens with Wedding Announcement, which seems horrible for them. Like, the card draws are fine, but the tokens seem better. Thraben Inspector. Alright, Unholy Annex, start doing some work on Holy Annex. Find me some answers. Another United Battlefront. Double Ossification. Yep, this is definitely what is happening right now. Well, I'm gonna kill a random rabbit. And yep, I'm just gonna continue doing the thing. Make a demon, draw a card, gain some life. And hopefully they don't get another double ossification. Okay, they get a Caretaker's Talent, which is probably worse. Because it means card draw, which means I'm no longer outgrinding them. Alright, let's cast Duress. Grab the Wandering Emperor. Cast Thoughtseize. Take Enduring Innocence. No attacks. Ooh, we draw Withering Torment, and we can kill the Caretaker's Talent. That's huge. Now, I am troublingly close to dying. But hopefully they don't notice. They can put me to 3 here and lose one of their guys. They notice. Alright. Need to draw something. Also, Perilous Snare is active now, which is less than ideal. Alright, we draw another blocker. No attacks. And we draw a Go for the Throat. That's great. We're going to save that in case they try to Perilous Snare something. And if they just recast Yorion, I can Go for the Throat it. That'll get them their Portable Hole back. But at least they won't have a Yorion in play. I'll lose my Demon. Alright, they attack with all. I will block. And take 2 because I need to kill the Yorion. It's a much bigger threat. I'll let them decide what they want to flicker. But assuming they do flicker the portable hole, which they are going to, then I'm going to need to find another demon, otherwise I will just die. Alright, Yorion down. Blackcleave Cliffs does nothing. I need a live draw. Fear of Missing Out is a blocker and a redraw. Blazemeyer Verge does nothing. Shieldred might be too late. And obviously if this United Battlefront finds another stupid removal spell, then it'll definitely be too late. Yep, cool. Perilous Snare takes my Fear of Missing Out and they attack me for 1 and I die. Hidetsugu consumes all, beats their deck. Anger of the Gods doesn't beat their deck, but is very good. Extinction Event is very good. Invoke Despair is very good. All these random silly little single target removal spells are not good. 2 more cuts. Probably Bloodtithe Harvester. Just don't need all the random creatures quite so much. So post-board, we should have a much easier time of it. Like, we have a lot of cards that basically destroy their entire board state while leaving mine intact. So hopefully that'll turn out well. Alright, keeping this. It doesn't have our, like, instant win the game buttons, but it is just a good hand, and it has lots of card draw, so we can find instant win the game buttons later. But Bloodtithe Harvester, get a token. Portable Hole on a Bloodtithe Harvester is fine. Better that than a demon. Land Unholy Annex. The life total matters less than the card advantage, at least at this point. Especially if it's only going to be 2 points. Alright, and they concede. Very cool. We run it back. I guess they missed their land drop. They must. The only thing I can think as to why they would concede there is they kept a 1-lander and were sad. Actually, yeah, I had 3 lands in hand. They had 1 land in play. I need to pay more attention to that sort of thing. I tend to just sort of gloss over what my opponent is doing with their mana base. Right, this hand is great. It's got a Hidetsugu in it. We're going to consume all, and they're going to be sad. Shockland, Thoughtseize. Take Perilous Snare, obviously. Carrot Cake does basically nothing against Hidetsugu. Alright, Springs. Fear of Missing Out. We're going to pitch one of these Fables, I think. No, let's get rid of the Bloodtithe Harvester. I want to keep the higher impact stuff, which means 3 mana spells, basically. Alright, they just randomly Field of Ruin me. I guess it's a basic check. I have passed your basic check, opponent. Oh, that is the greatest card to see them play. Literally the best possible thing. Alright, let's just get our billion for 1 here. Not get too greedy with it. And easy peasy. Alright. Basic check part 2. Still pass. I have 3. And another portable hole. Alright, goodbye graveyards. Doesn't matter, but there you go. I should have played that on red, probably. I only have a single red source. Take Elspeth. You'll love to see that. Just the perfect Thoughtseize. Take your last card. It's busted. Alright, land, add Yorion. And I think at this point we get rid of anger and fear of missing out. Find a Sheoldred. That's great. Play that. Love to stabilize the life total if given a chance. Portable Hole and Carrot Cake don't really do anything threatening. So they can Yorion Blink, but like it doesn't really accomplish much. Alright, they have Ossification for Sheoldred because they top decked it, because of course they did. At this point, though, like the random value that I've been accumulating over the course of the game is probably just going to be too much. Like, I have a big board of random idiots. I'm making treasure tokens. Their life total is dropping. Right, there's the Carrot Cake. And Vessel of the All-Consuming. Probably never going to trigger its second ability. Yeah, they just draw a backup Nykthos, and we win. Alright, that was... You know, that was certainly a match. We're in Diamond. The important thing is that we have made it to Diamond successfully. So let's keep on going. Maybe we can get a win streak past Diamond. That would be nice. We'd need to get very lucky for that to happen. Like, never run into bad matchups sort of lucky, but... At least if we want to get there today. This hand is completely reasonable. If they're a creature deck, it's great. If they're not a creature deck, it's, like, pretty bad, but it is what it is. At least we have Thoughtseize. They have a red creepy guy as their avatar. They're probably mono red aggro. See, I just have Fibblethip as my avatar and I never change it, which makes it impossible to tell. Okay, it's Greasefang. Well, we take it to Greasefang. So that's a bullet dodged. They're going to Thoughtseize me back, see that I have 2 pair. Alright, play the Harvester. Get a blood token. So the Mardu Greasefang deck is kind of scary. Mostly because like they can just randomly win out of nowhere with the top deck. The turn 1 Thoughtseize is doing a lot of work. Kroxa is not the end of the world here. It's definitely not ideal, but... We play our 3rd land, we play Fear of Missing Out. We have to discard this Fatal Push, unfortunately, which would have been good if they ever want to escape their Kroxa. But we get a Thoughtseize, which is better. It's better because it works now, it takes their Fable. Now they're stuck with a Parhelion in hand and no way to get rid of it. And we have 5 power in play. We have 5 power in play. Opponent has Stone Cold nothing. Alright. Ban you. Alright. Opponent shocked into Sacred Foundry for some reason. It means they have something. We're going to attack first and then play Unholy Annex. We're still at 16. We can afford the life loss. And the card draw is going to be great. Cycle the Flagship. Okay. X equals 0, so it doesn't do anything. Fine with that. It does mean if one of those cards is a Grease Fang, then I just randomly die, but it is what it is. Alright, they have their own fear to get rid of the Parhelion as well. And they have Delirium somehow. Not sure when that happened. Alright, Vanishing Verse. Vanishing Verse is definitely very good. I have a Fable, so it's not the end of the world, but we're just going to attack with the Blood Tithe Harvester. If they want to trade, that's fine. If they don't want to trade, then they take 3 and go to 5, and then they're in serious danger of dying next turn. Kroxa is 5 other cards, so they can escape Kroxa and leave exactly one. Alright, cool. Yep, just nothing matters. Unlicensed Turf's in. Hidetsugu consumes all in because it exiles graveyards randomly. Anoint with Affliction kills Grease Fang. Liliana, I guess. We bring out Fatal. Nah, we can't bring out Fatal Push. I think we bring out the. Now let's bring out Fatal Push and Blood Tithe Harvester. Don't want to completely cut like a bunch of removal spells. Don't want to cut a bunch of creatures. Want to have some of both, but less of both than the new sideboard cards that I'm bringing in. Alright, this hand has no interaction, so we have to mulligan. This hand has a single Duress as interaction, and Hidetsugu consumes all as kind of interaction if you squint. Bottom of the Blood Crypt, I guess. Probably going to draw a third land. Alright, Fatal Push, Vanishing versus Duress. I guess I take Duress so that they at least have to spend 2 mana on the Vanishing Verse, and they can't do it this turn. Alright, we draw Thoughtseize. That's pretty cool. Let's take Vanishing Verse as well. And now we just need to draw a land. Which it'll be really sad if I bottom a land and then don't draw one. Alright, opponent has not cast their Fear of Missing Out. Well, I'm just gonna slam Unholy Annex and not get Fatal Pushed while they have 2 mana up. Alright, they top deck a Fable. I also have a Fable. And I continue to lose life. Now I have a Mutavault, so we should be fine on that front. Opponent gets their Fable trigger. I'm going to get rid of some of these bad cards. Like maybe they keep the Fatal Pushes, but they almost certainly get rid of the land, right? I would get rid of land, 1 Fatal Push, keep the other. Unless this last card is bad. Alright, they just get rid of land, keep both Fatal Pushes. Alright, they push my guy. And attack. And play a Fear of Missing Out. I think I play Hidetsugu Consumes All just to get the Goblin Shaman and the treasure. And then eventually get rid of their board in the future, their graveyard in the future, not their board. Get rid of some random cards that aren't amazing in the spot. Mutavault, Hidetsugu consumes all. So this gets rid of their treasure, which means they can't Fatal Push the Mutavault. Yeah, they're gonna sack it for mana, and I'm just gonna pass to second main. And now I fire up the Mutavault, and I gain my life. Alright, if they don't have anything good this turn, we make Kroxa bad, and just continue to get cards and drain them. Alright, in comes the Fear. And it hits for a lot. It's definitely not small. So we get our own Fable. And we exile the graveyards, which means they don't have Delirium anymore. And then I think I go land Blade of the Oni, Blood Tithe Harvester. I want to have... Actually, not Blood Tithe Harvester. Yeah, let's go to combat. And then pass the turn. And end the turn. Alright, they've used their Fatal Push. So now I can fire up the Mutavault. So the reason I was waiting is if I turn on Revolt by killing their Reflection, then they have Revolt to kill my Reflection. Alright, these are Cycle of Valor's flagship. I'm going to kill their Reflection. So they draw a random card. I draw Duress, which might be useful in the future. Emphasis on might. And if they have a Greasefang now, then they win. Because of course they do. You have two random cards. A cycle off of this and a top deck. Surely one of them isn't Greasefang. It's Takenuma channel to pick up a Blood Tithe Harvester. Okay, that's fine. I can deal with that. I can also start doing Reflection Blood Tithe Harvester things next turn. So that's exciting. My turn. Alright, get that guy. Blood Tithe Harvester. Make a blood. Make a copy of the Blood Tithe Harvester. Make a blood. Sack this Blood Tithe Harvester to kill the fear of missing out. Duress you. Check, it's nothing interesting. And fire up Mutavault. Go to attacks, because may as well. And now we get to do our draining again, and still just hope they don't draw a Greasefang. We are going to be in that position for probably the rest of the game, unless I top deck a removal spell. Alright, still no Greasefang. It's always a good sign. So let's just keep doing this. Killing their guys. And unfortunately, I think we need to end the chain here, because otherwise they untap with a Blood Tithe Harvester and kill my Reflection. I'm going to play another Unholy Annex. And a tap land. And a Blade of the Oni. So if exactly I draw a removal spell here and they have Greasefang, then I'll be sad. Otherwise, like, we win the game next turn. They are digging. And they have land and nothing. Alright, cool. You'll love to see it. Let's make a copy of the Blade of the Oni. And let's attack with a bunch of creatures. Now I've torched the tower, so Greasefang doesn't win anymore. Alright, cycle Valor's Flagship. X equals 2, but that doesn't work because the blades have menace. So I kill one and they die. Yeah, and this also has trample, so like it extra didn't work, even if they blocked one of them. Alright, let's go to game 3 and win again. I would love to have an unlicensed Terse for once, so that I can not be dead to Greasefang at all times. Alright, this hand has no interaction. This hand has no interaction. We just have to keep on 5. We can't go to 4. Unfortunately, like, we're gonna lose to a turn 3 Greasefang. Like, I know what's gonna happen, and it's gonna be turn 2 Fear of Missing Out, discard a Parhelion, turn 3 Greasefang, reanimate Parhelion, and then we lose. But I just can't go to 4. Alright. They are thinking. Alright, it's Bloodtithe Harvester, not Fear of Missing Out. And we top deck the Torch the Tower, which means... So they can't get a target in the bin for Greasefang now. Alright, Duress, probably take the Unholy Annex. And this is what bargain is: artifact, enchantment, or token. So if worse comes to worse, I can sack my Blade of the Oni to bargain torch the tower to kill a Greasefang. Not having the Unholy Annex is huge, though. There's Fear of Missing Out putting... I don't play Graveyard synergies. Like, Unlicensed Terse actually does almost nothing against me. My opponent is simply sideboarded wrong. And they're probably going to win anyway because I mulliganed to 5 and kept a kind of bad hand. So they could Bloodtithe Harvester activate, kill my Blade of the Oni. They're not going to do that. I really need to draw like a Shieldred or something. Some big impactful spell that stabilizes the board. But even then, like... then I don't have mana up for dealing with Greasefang. Alright, Unlicensed Terse. Cast your spell that doesn't do anything, sure. Alright, Liliana is excellent. So I can play Liliana, force them to sacrifice one of their creatures.
Nobody knows Dominaria's shadows like me.
Alright, exile one of... sacrifice. Sacrifice one of your creatures. Doesn't hugely matter which one. They are probably going to get rid of the Fear of Missing Out. Alright, they do that. And I will say no attacks. Blade of the Oni is on blocking duty for the future. Alright, Unlicensed Terse gets rid of a card in my graveyard that I can't reanimate. Who cares? Alright, they attack Liliana. I will block to save her. I think Liliana is better than Blade. Alright, Overlord of the Balemerc comes in, gets back something. Oh, get back a Greasefang. How fun. And they don't actually have anything in the graveyard for Greasefang. They get back Fear of Missing Out instead. And they get loot. I would really like to get empty-handed next turn so the Liliana Plus is all upside. They have all the chances in the world to put their cards in the graveyard for Greasefang purposes, so I'm not worried about it. They put another Greasefang into the bin. Well, that is good to see. Alright, so I can go land. Hidetsugu consumes all, destroys the blood token, I guess. And then it'll wipe away the graveyard in the future. Actually, will it, or will I use it as bargain material to kill the Fear of Missing Out? There are no good artifact creatures in the graveyard at the moment. Let's bargain away that. Feels kind of bad to do this, but it is what it is. Yeah, Unlicensed Hearse is a good top deck here. And then Liliana, you discard a card.
You won't be
Get rid of Fatal Push. Not sure why they were so eager to keep that. They have another Fear of Missing Out, which puts Valor's Flagship away. And they crew up the Unlicensed Hearse and kill Liliana. That is a huge problem for me. Well, I have my own Unlicensed Hearse. So I will pass the turn. I am insulated against Greasefang, but I'm just going to die to Unlicensed Hearse beatdowns, probably. So they can, like, attack once, then crew the Hearse and attack for more the second time around. Yep. So I go to 7. And I will take Valor's Flagship and Greasefang out of the bin. Alright, Blade of the Oni is not terrible. It just strictly is going to be trading. Another Fear of Missing Out. Brutal. Kind of needed them to be drawing lands here. Alright. So actually, I can do this, right? So I crew up the Hearse, I block, and then I eat 2 things, make it a 4/4. Alright, goodbye, Unlicensed Hearse and Greasefang. Alright, that's a Fear of Missing Out dealt with. And we have a Duress. Take a Parhelion. It's fine to be in the bin because I have this Unlicensed Hearse. The Overlord of the Balemerc is scary, but not that scary. Their Unlicensed Hearse is more of a problem, I think, because it grows. I need to draw removal spells at some point. Alright. Opponent, do you have a good attack? You have a hard cast Overlord of the Baelmerk. Non-avatar creature card or a graveyard. I actually don't know how the timing for this works. But they have a billion things in there. So I'll let them mill first. So yeah, they get to do that without me ever reacting, I think. And then the other Overlord is going to come off Impending in their end step. I will get rid of 2 Blood Tithe Harvesters this time. And are they going to Unlicensed Hearse to shut down my Unlicensed Hearse from growing? That would be smart of them to do. I don't know if they'll see it. Alright, they see it. Rip. Alright, then that is now another 5/5, and I just draw another stupid Duress. And the game is over. Yeah. Opponent just drew constant bangers, and I just kept drawing Duresses and stuff. Okay. Let's do another one. Magic is a fun game. I mean, it was like a decent balanced game, right? Like, I just got unlucky and lost. And that's typically how decent balanced games go. I can't believe I lost to their Unlicensed Hearse. Like, it's not even good. It objectively shouldn't be in their deck, but it won, which is very frustrating. Because if they didn't have the Unlicensed Hearse, then they do a lot less damage. Then they do a little less damage on one of those earlier turns, and I have a creature that can block the Overlords to keep treading water. But yeah, like I just never drew any card advantage engine, which my deck has a billion of. That entire game. Alright, speaking of card advantage engines, this has one, and it's also got a Duress and a Go for the Throat. Opponent is thinking. And it is Swamp. Thoughtseize. My poor Unholy Annex, or potentially Duress. Alright. We lose the Unholy Annex, and our hand goes from great to awful. We take their Unholy Annex, but they have a Shieldred, so their hand is still pretty good. Alright. That's a pretty good top deck. I just need to beat all this nonsense. That's Ward discard a card, which should be fine. I just, like, I need to torch it, not go for the throat, because otherwise, how am I ever beating the Shieldred? Okay, we would have been bailed out by Withering Torment. I think I lead on Unholy Annex here, because we're going to be fighting over the board for ages, and I want to be drawing cards while that happens. It is a bit risky in terms of my life total, but I think it's worth it. They didn't exile a creature, so I don't take the extra 1. That's great. Second Graveyard Trespasser is a problem. And I think I have to channel Sokenzan to get some guys to kill those. I guess that's the plan. It's completely abysmal, and they flip in the meantime. I go for the throat one of them. And I will pay the ward, discarding the rest that I have. So that keeps me from taking 1 billion damage this turn. Alright, no, I have to play that as a land. And go for the throat the other glutton. And discard the Unholy NX, because boy, my life total is scary right now. And play a Fear of Missing Out, discard my last card, draw a new one. Fatal Push is much better than Torch the Tower, with the context of my opponent having a Shieldred. Alright, they just push my Fear of Missing Out. Alright, I draw yet another Unholy Annex. Well, I need a way of triggering Revolt. I guess I'll make a demon here. So I'm still at 3. And yep, that checks out. Opponent just had infinite cards that were very annoying to deal with. So let's bring in all the cards that deal with those things. Anoint with Affliction, probably not good enough. Fatal Pushes and Torch the Tower seem awful based on what they had. Like, these cards are annoying enough to deal with those cards anyway. With Ward and everything, I don't want to jump through additional hoops. And let's also get rid of 2 Fear of Missing Outs. Blood Tithe Harvesters can trade with an unflipped Graveyard Trespasser, which could be relevant. Alright, we have a Thoughtseize, we have 2 Unholy Annexes, which is great against opposing discard spells. Well, easiest pick of my life. They need to top deck extraordinarily well to come back from this at this point. Like, it's already extremely dire for them, knowing my hand. Get rid of Anger. That's not going to be what this game is about. Alright, let's start getting some card advantage. They have Menace, which means I am never blocking. So we need to find a demon, but if we can, then we are good to go. Field of Ruin potentially stops a Mutavault. And they have a backup Field of Ruin in hand as well. Alright, no, they just fire off a Field of Ruin. I have 3 basic swamps in the deck, so this does nothing. I guess it squeezes me a tiny bit on red sources. Not enough to matter. They can Duress take my second Unholy Annex. I wasn't really planning on casting that anyway, with life total situation being what it is. Let's play Pathway on red. Blood Tithe Harvester. Fear of Missing Out. Discard the Urborg. Draw a card. It's another pathway anyways. Alright, life total officially getting scary. It'll be fine if they don't have any removal, but like, let's be real, they probably have removal. I'm double blocking there because I need to save my life total at this point. Every point of life matters when you have an Annex in play and no demon against an opponent who almost certainly has removal. So I lose the Harvester. Yep, and they have a Graveyard Trespasser. Alright, let's get rid of the Blackleaf Cliffs. And Thoughtseize you. Double Invoke Despair is the most horrifying thing I've seen in my life. I guess... Oh, I'm gonna die here, aren't I? I guess I have to Anger because the Invoke is gonna kill one of my fears. Alright. Wait, no, I'm just dead now, right? Because I don't have Creature or Planeswalker, so Invoke kills me. Yep. Another game where my opponent just starts with a bad hand and rips top deck after top deck after top deck until I die. Like, one of these days, my opponent is going to start with 2 spells in hand. I'm going to discard one of them, and then they're going to draw, like, 50% lands for the rest of the game, like a normal person, and then they're going to die. But apparently that day is not today. Alright, we have a 1-lander. We mulligan. We have a 2-lander. We will get rid of the Bloodtithe Harvester since it is quite hard to cast at the moment. Opponent has Thoughtseize to take my Unholy Annex. Play a Pathway on black. And now we get to play Blade of the Onis back and forth. I'll push yours. Alright, we top deck another Unholy Annex. That is great if we find a 3rd land. Opponent has Graveyard Trespasser again. Alright, but I have 3rd land Unholy Annex with the Demon in play this time. No attacks. I think I want to block that if given the option. It's by far the cleanest way of dealing with that. Alright. Graveyard Trespasser dealt with. Opponent has Blade of the Oni. I find a red source. And Blade of the Oni. So I get to keep drawing cards and gaining life. Bloodletter of Aclazotz. Understood. Message received. No blocks against the Menace creature. Second Unholy Annex. If they're going to be bloodlettering me, I'm going to be gaining some life back, if that's fine. Alright. We draw 2 cards, back up to 22. I'm going to be taking, like, 10 this turn. They Thoughtseize me. They can feel free to take any of these Fear of Missing Outs or the Fable. They should take the Fable, of course. Yep. That doesn't change the clock any. Alright. That was a game. Invoke Despair, Extinction Event, Liliana, Anoint with Affliction, these are all good. Torch the Tower is kind of annoying. Fatal Push is kind of annoying. Like, their cards are just harder to deal with. The more hoops you have to jump through, like, the more you want to cut those sorts of cards. Yeah, this is fine. We have a Blade of the Oni. We have plenty of late game stuff. I'll play an Urborg. And start playing Pathways on red. Alright, the Blade of the Oni stare down. They have the Unholy Annex, which is definitely good for them. My Invoke Despair could get me out of it if they don't have... if they don't have another enchantment. Alright, Bloodletter of Akhlazotz is terrifying, but I can deal with it. I'll attack first, because this will get rid of that. And we exile everything even. And... alright, they had an Invoke Despair, so I died. What a fun game. Literally just whoever has the Unholy Annex, they just win because of it. Alright. This hand is good. We have a Thoughtseize, which should hopefully disrupt them enough. Bloodletter, Slasher, Edict. Well, we're going to take the Slasher. The Bloodletter can be dealt with in a variety of other ways. They take the Fable, not the Invoke. Not sure which is correct there. I'm going to play Blade of the Oni here. They're going to Shieldred's Edict it, and I'm going to be sad, but such is life. Mutavault, Blood Tithe Harvester. And I'm strategically playing even spells so that when they have their Bloodletter of Akhlazotz, my Extinction Event kills my own stuff. Alright, we attack here. And play the Annex. They have the Mutavault. They have the Field of Ruin to kill my Mutavault, which sucks, but at least we're drawing additional cards. They target Blood Crypt. Okay. I don't have any red cards in hand right now, so that's fine. And it means I still have a Mutavault. And I drew a Go for the Throat off of my Unholy Annex, which means this Bloodletter of Akhlazotz is not scary. And we can even attack with our Mutavault, which they probably should have killed last turn. Alright, we get Thoughtseize. We almost certainly lose Invoke Despair. Not that we're anywhere close to casting it. We top deck it again anyways. Love to see it. One of these days we will have another 2 black sources, and we will cast our Invoke Despair, and it'll be good. Alright, they don't kill a Mutavault. They simply elect not to Stone Rain me. And they're at 2, which means the game is over. Yep. Man, that was just 3... Does a sequence of 3 miserable games where each person alternates being on the receiving end, is that good Magic? Is it? I don't know. Maybe it is. Alright. This opponent has a Renin something or other avatar. So to see if they're playing some sort of Jund. And this is fine, I guess. It's certainly not one of my better hands. It's got one piece of interaction against a Yorion deck. Against a Yorion deck, maybe like the pressure from fear of missing out shielded, maybe that'll just be enough. Oh, they mulliganed. That's good. Come on, top deck a Thoughtseize one time. They mulliganed to 4, and I didn't top deck a Thoughtseize. Very sad. They mulliganed to 4, keeping a 0 lander. You should have mulliganed to 3, probably. Holy Mutavault, Batman. Yep. Opponent has conceded. Alright, they're Yorion decks, so let's cut some of the small damage removal and bring in Invoke Despair, Liliana, Bank Buster, and maybe a Damping Sphere. Damping Sphere in case they're like a Lotus Field combo or something. Alright. Alright, we have a Thoughtseize, so we get to learn what they're up to. If nothing else, that will be valuable. And then we just have to hope that whatever it is they're up to, an Infinite Chain of Fable of the Mirror Breakers beats them. They play a Mutavault on 1. What are they cooking? Well, I'm going to take the Enduring Innocence. And they have that. I will play a Blood Tithe Harvester. They can saddle that to get a basic Plains card. Actually, can they? How does that timing work? Does that trigger resolve and then they get a chance? Alright, no, they just have a Kythian. So Kythian can be made indestructible quite easily. And Luminarch Aspirant is an annoying card. Alright, let's just kill the thing that can become a Planeswalker before it becomes a Planeswalker. And then let's just kill the Luminarch Aspirant before it pumps them up further. Now we just have to beat this Lynx somehow. Alright. Backup Luminarch Aspirant. Bad for the home team. Fire up Mutavault. Probably net good. Like, better than if they had something else to do with the mana. Alright, they didn't choose to get a land that time. And we're just going to get beat down here. I was expecting them to be like a normal Yorion deck and not a mono-white aggro deck that has Yorion for some reason. Those are two very different things. Now that we know what we're up against, Game 3 should be a cakewalk. Like, just bring in our sweepers, win. Yep. They can put the counter on either of these to force me to chump block. Yep. And I don't have any way of coming back from this situation. I don't have sweepers in the deck right now, so let's do some sideboarding. Duresses are out. All the Wraths are in. Fatal Pushes, Anoint with Afflictions, Torch the Towers back in. Damping Sphere, get out of here. Reckoner Bankbuster, get out of here. Liliana is fine, she's removal. And let's see here. Duresses are good cuts. Thoughtseizes are good to have in the deck, but a little scary. Withering Torment is painfully slow. And all of these creatures, like, blocking doesn't seem like it's going to work, so let's just cut Blood Tithe Harvesters. We'll keep the FOMOs because they are better at cycling. Although maybe I should keep the Blood Tithe Harvesters because they're like marginally better in combat, and they can they can kill stuff with blood tokens. I don't know. I could see an argument for either of them. We're gonna keep double Thoughtseize. Let's just take their hand apart. Yep, they're mulliganing again, which means double Thoughtseize should be quite strong. Alright, yep, just take their 1-drop, take their 2-drop. And goodbye, Lynx. They are paused for a long time. Alright, they have 2 Lynxes. Fair enough. You got me, you're gonna get a Lynx. Alright, well, the question viewers want to know is, can an infinite supply of Fable of the Mirror Breakers defeat a Glory Heath Lynx? It endures 1, put a counter on it, or make a spirit? Okay. Understandable. I mean, it's good, I guess, but it's not great. It's a 1-mana 2/1, so that's probably just good enough. They are thinking forever. When, like, it's not a hard decision. You attack with the Lynx, you saddle with the Descendant, you get your planes, you get your lifelink. I'm never gonna block your 2/3 with my 2/2. I guess that gives me an attack to make a free attack to make treasures, but like, you're an aggro deck, you have to take damage while you can. Alright, they do that. No blocks. Alright, now the fun part. What do I discard? I think it's Fable Takenuma. Unholy Annex is really good. Like, I need something like that to win the long game. Alright, this is great. So we can attack, make a treasure. If they want to block with their Mutavault, they can feel free to do so. If they don't, so I can play the Blade of the Oni, and then next turn, Annex can be gaining me life. And this turn I have the treasure to go for the throat, something to stay alive. I still don't entirely understand what they're doing, but they have a Skyclave Apparition. And they're saddling. I think I just killed the Lynx here. So now I don't have my demon, which means Unholy Annex is quite a bit scarier. I assume they'll attack for 3, no, just 2. Alright, we top deck a Mutavault, and they don't attack for some reason. It seemed relatively free. I guess they were worried about being on the defensive. Well, I'm just going to start gaining my life back and drawing my cards back. I think no attacks, just have good blockers. Not super in need of the mana immediately. Yep. I don't know why you would want to play a Yorion aggro deck. It just seems bad. Alright, on to the next one. Yeah, I don't really know what more to say about that. Like, my opponent is playing an aggro deck that isn't good. Their aggro deck is slower than my mid-range deck a lot of the time, which which doesn't seem like a good way to be. And I think in general, like, consistency is super important for aggro decks. Yorion is the enemy of consistency. Alright, we'll keep this. Top deck a red source at some point. It'll be fine. Opponent has Ugin Avatar, Cat Sleeves, and is mulliganing into Oblivion against my Thoughtseize. I imagine the game will end shortly. Yep. Alright. We win a game. Pro tip for you, if you mulligan into Oblivion and you're going to concede, may as well just play out the game and just pass all of your turns. That way you get to sideboard because you see what they're doing, and they don't get to sideboard because they don't see what you're doing. So that's a fun little pro tip for you. I'm going to keep this hand. It has Thoughtseize. Opponent has Boseiju, Arboreal Grazer, into a Triome. Alright, well, we are... Yikes. Gonna take... So the problem is, right, Omniscience could be reanimated somehow. Like, that could be part of their plans. Hidden Strings means there's Lotus Fields, but they don't have one. I think I just take stock up here. Like, their hand doesn't do anything at the moment. If I take stock up, that remains the case for the foreseeable future. Urborg, fix your mana if it was a problem. Get rid of a Blood Crypt. Find a Swamp instead. It's the same thing, but worse. Alright, they immediately concede again. Opponent is not at all interested in playing Magic the Gathering. They want to play Solitaire. If they don't get to play Solitaire and things go even slightly wrong and they have to think about interacting, they're just out. You know, it's not... It's not a mindset that I respect, but it is one that I understand. Like, they were by no means dead there. Like, they just quit because they are weak-minded. Their willpower is low. They're easily discouraged. Alright, play a Blood Crypt tapped. Basically free on turn 1. Plains Recruitment Officer. Well, I'm going to play my 2-3, which should be pretty good against their 2-1. Discard a land, find a land, as one does. Caravan non-human. So their mana is perfect. They have another Recruitment Officer and a Hopeful Initiate. What does training do? I've never understood. Attacks with another creature with greater power, put a 1/1 counter. Alright, I have learned what training does, and I don't care. Alright, let's play a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And continue turtling up. And next turn we're probably just going to discard 2 lands. Alright, Thalia's Lieutenant is scary. Now I have to block both Recruitment Officers, I think. This is still fine. Ah, okay. Cool. Opponent has the perfects. Let's get rid of a couple of lands, draw a couple of lands, and then hope Sheoldred single-handedly wins the matchup. Like, maybe they just don't have anything else, and Sheoldred stonewalls them and gains me life. It could happen. It seems to have happened. Alright, we are gaining life. Get out of here, please. Alright. Well, we once again pass and hope they can't beat Shieldred. Adeline. Does Adeline beat Shieldred? Yeah, kinda. I mean, it trades with Shieldred, and it makes Thalia's lieutenant trade with Shieldred. Alright, Takenuma is decent. I can get a Fear of Missing Out back. Play another red source, I guess. Play Fear of Missing Out. Alright, Go for the Throat is quite strong. So we're gonna pass. We're gonna Go for the Throat the Adeline on our next turn, and hopefully we just survive until then. Alright, just the one attack. And I think we say no blocks. I could have blocked the 1/1. That was stupid of me. Alright. Untap. Draw a card. Gain 2 life. Play a land. Kill the Adeline. If this last card is protection, then such is life. Alright, now Reflection. Start drawing me additional cards. They can sack their Hopeful Initiate or remove the counters from the Thalia's Lieutenant. Alright. Well, that's certainly good for them. And they can do that again to kill the Reflection at any point. But it has shrunk the Thalia's Lieutenant, which is kind of huge. Alright, Thalia's Lieutenant continues shrinking. Now the Hopeful Initiate can be grown by a Recruitment Officer attack. Another Thalia's Lieutenant. That's fun. Alright, we get to untap again. We draw another stupid pathway. Play the pathway and pass. Now we need our opponent to never draw anything for the rest of the game, while they have 2 Recruitment Officers in play, making that impossible. Alright, Fatal Push is something. The problem is, currently my opponent has card advantage. And Brutal Cathar. So I can actually get them with this. Like, this is actually kind of good for me. Because they're going to take my Shieldred and attack. And I get to bring Shieldred back and block stuff. Alright. Yep. They go all attacks. Fatal Push the Cathar. Get Shieldred back. And block the larger Lieutenant. Alright, but now I'm at 6. Up to 8. And we pass, and it is nighttime. Not that that matters. Opponent is down to 6. Oh, they have an Adeline. They have an Adeline. Why do they have an Adeline? That's not fair. And another Thalia's Lieutenant. Cool, just, you know... what is that? The third or fourth copy of the best card in their deck by a significant margin. And we die. Alright, let's bring in some sweepers, some removal spells. Bring out Duress, which does nothing. Invoke Despair doesn't really do all that much. Having creatures to block with seems good against them. And having Thought Seizes seems bad against them. Like, they don't have a lot of super high quality cards. Like, trading a Thought Seize and 2 life for a random 1/1 doesn't seem exciting. Alright, we have lots of creatures. We have 2 removal spells. An opponent is mulliganing. So we'll play a tap land on 1 and then go from there. Recruitment Officer. I'm going to do the same thing I did last time, which is Stonewall the Recruitment Officer with a fear of missing out. Discard Blood Tithe Harvester. Need my 3rd land, and Mutavault is pretty good. Alright, Thalia's Lieutenant. So at this point, I think I just clear out their board. So they have nothing in play, which makes Thalia's less scary, makes Adeline's less scary. And hopefully we can untap and Unholy Annex. Alright, there is the Adeline. We're not going to be able to cast Unholy Annex this turn. We just need to kill that. May as well chip in for 2 points of damage. Alright, Brutal Cathar is only targets creatures. So let's make an Unholy Annex, fire up Mutavault, gain some life back. Second Unholy Annex is fun. Alright. Liliana is great. Beats Ward.
Something suspicious is going on. One of your friends has to leave.
And I'll discard a Blood Tithe Harvester. Play a tap land. Fire up the Mutavault to have a demon. And continue draining. This game seems like it's over. I have a card advantage engine in play. I have disruption in play. My opponent is just like removing my creatures temporarily. Yeah. Opponent agrees. Let's try this again. Alright. Opponent's on the play this time, which helps them a lot. We have double Fatal Push, Hidetsugu Consumes All, which is pretty good. Because of the Hidetsugu Consumes All, I'm going to try to be conservative with these Fatal Pushes on 1-drops. Obviously, no point leaving them off of 2-drops. Just get that guy out of there. And we pass. Come on, play another couple of 1-drops. That's not a 1-drop, that's an Adeline. Alright, so we need to beat Adeline somehow, which means Revolt for Fatal Push, pretty much. So play a Fear of Missing Out, get rid of another Fear of Missing Out, and pass. So I can chump block. Alright, there's another 1-drop, that's great for me. I can chump block the Adeline, and then Fatal Push it. Pass to blockers. There we go. And they play another Mutavault and lose their Adeline. So they can activate Recruitment Officer in response to the Hidetsugu Consumes All, but that's probably fine. No, they can't. That's 4 mana. This is 3 mana, and they don't have 2 counters. Alright. Goodbye, your entire board. And Now we're probably going to Fatal Push a Mutavault. So they fire up both of them. Get rid of one. 1 mana Stone Rain. Seems pretty good. Alright, exile all graveyards. I think that's irrelevant. And now we just play a couple of creatures. So the Mutavaults can't attack. And if all they did last turn was fire up 2 Mutavaults, they must have Stone Cold Nothing, I think. I can't imagine what they would have that fire up double Mutavault would be better. We play an Iganjo. Alright. They exile my thing and give me a clue token. They fire up the Mutavault tapped to get a Thalia's Lieutenant. Alright, Thalia's Lieutenant could theoretically beat me if I draw nothing for the rest of the game. But I don't draw nothing for the rest of the game, I draw Liliana.
Nobody knows Dominaria's shadows
Yep.
like me.
Rough game 1. Almost had it anyways. Super clean sailing games 2 and 3. Pretty much as expected. Like the sweepers are just so good in this deck. Alright, let's do one more match probably. It's 4:38. Don't want to like do a match that takes 10 minutes and then get stuck in a grindy control game that lasts like 45 minutes or something. That would be rough. Alright. Currently waiting. Alright. Find an opponent. And they are 196 Mythic. Alright. I am prepared for mono red aggro. Or the mirror. Either of those would make sense. Bottom Withering Torment. Blood Crypt tapped, I guess. Yep, as expected, it's mono red aggro. You can tell that the format is healthy when you can predict what deck your opponent is playing just by their rating on the ladder. Alright, I have a 2-3, which is apparently helping a lot. And the bad news is that, like, they're going to draw Monstrous Rage and obliterate me, and it's going to be sad. Alright, Kamano faces Kakazan out of order. And the challenger attacks. I think I'll double block. Monstrous Rage me, bro. Alright, Burst Lightning. Not quite as good as Monstrous Rage. Still pretty good for them. Let's get rid of 2 lands here. Alright, that's pretty good. Those are the ones that do stuff when they die. Yep, alright, let's just clear you out of anything. And then Thoughtseize you. Alright. Double land is sort of brutal to Thoughtseize into, but sort of ideal from like winning the game. And they top deck Screaming Nemesis. Oh, of course they freaking top deck Screaming Nemesis. Why would they ever top deck anything that wasn't specifically Screaming Nemesis? Well, I'm going to play Unholy Annex. Because drawing cards, like the life loss is less significant than the fact that I'm about to die to a Screaming Nemesis. Because you see, my opponent is 196 Mythic, so naturally they are lucky enough to top deck the Screaming Nemesis the turn after I Thoughtseize them and confirm they have no spells in hand. Alright. They can make that a double striker and I die. Alright. Anger in. Hidetsu consumes all, probably good enough here. Thoughtseize is out. Withering Torment out. And I guess Extinction Event in. Duress isn't amazing, but it is something. It's 1 mana, it's better than getting blown out by Monstrous Rage. Alright, this hand is great. If anything beats top 200 Mythic, this is it. Alright, Duress Bricks. And they have the links. Let's play a Blade of the Oni. I like all of my cards. I don't want to fear of missing out right now. So that gets Torch the Towered, which apparently they just top decked. And Emberheart Challenger. Alright, second Anger is not incredible. And, I mean, their hand is not good for the Emberheart Challenger. I'm going to assume they don't top deck something. And they top deck something. Cool. No blocks there, I think. Torching them is just so risky, though. Like, if they have another spell they can cast, it is devastating. Alright, there's the Screaming Nemesis, which I don't care about. Alright, 1 Screaming Nemesis dealt with. 1 to go. Heartfire Hero. I think I will just torch that as well. And they have another Screaming Nemesis in hand. So I think I have to pass and just accept that I'm angering into a Screaming Nemesis and then getting Sunspine Links to clear it off. Alright, we take that block. Alright, well, Sheoldred would be really cool if they didn't have the Sunspine Links and the Screaming Nemesis to make, like, everything that I ever do worthless. Yay, players can't gain life. How fair. Alright, no blocks. My only way to win is to somehow get rid of all of their cards, like without doing anything. Alright, cool. None of it mattered. They had 3 Screaming Nemesises, and so they won. Yeah, you can say good game, but, like, Screaming Nemesis should be banned, clearly. It's not a reasonable card. Like, I would be shocked if the next time a card is banned from Pioneer, it isn't Screaming Nemesis or Monstrous Rage. Like, it's just blatantly the way you beat red aggro decks is by gaining life. So let's just, like, the way you beat red aggro decks is by gaining life and blocking. So let's make gaining life impossible and blocking impossible. Like how about no? How about we don't print a card that single-handedly counters all of the deck's weaknesses, while also being a 3/3 haste for 3 for some reason? Alright. Midrange mirror. This one will be fine. Alicia something. Okay. we're going to Fatal Push that. And we are going to start drawing cards. So they can play the Alicia and I'll just torch it. Or they can play the Blood Tithe Harvester. And I think I just play Sheoldred here. That stops me losing life to my own thing and also starts punishing them for doing stuff. Although I suppose they can play the second Blood Tithe Harvester, sack the first one to kill my Sheoldred. Yeah, that's pretty rough for me. The Blood Tithe Harvester 1-for-1ing a Sheoldred is not what you want to see. Like, it is still a 1-for-1 while I have an Unholy Annex in play, so it's probably fine. It's not ideal, though. Alright, let's get Scrapwork Mutt out of here permanently. And then play a Fear of Missing Out, discarding another Fear of Missing Out. And we fire up a Mutavault to drain them. Alright, Fable of the Mirror Breaker. They are also prepared to grind. Now they can trade the Blood Tithe Harvester for like any creature of mine that they want. Alright, they concede. Yeah, it's hard to grind through Unholy Annex when you don't have one. So let's bring in our Mirror Match cards. Anger is probably good in the mirror. I go back and forth on it, but it's probably fine. And Duress and Thoughtseize, I often cut. I think I want to try keeping Thoughtseize in, though, and instead cutting Fatal Push, 2 Fatal Push, 2 Torch the Tower. Let's see how having the discard in feels. It seems like the top deck, the extended top deck war situation doesn't really happen. Alright, opponent instantly concedes. Understandable. Not really understandable. Like, it's literally a mirror match. It's a mid-range mirror even. It's like the most fun Magic you can have. I don't know what they're up to. It is 4:49. I'm gonna end the stream here. Don't want to get stuck in a long match and go too far over. So yeah, I'll be back tomorrow playing Satisfactory. And I think the plan for tomorrow is to build more power, I think, is what we're going to be doing. Our power system needs a bit of an upgrade. It's starting to get to the point where I'm a bit nervous, so we're going to be doing that tomorrow. If you don't care about Satisfactory, I'll be back here, Magic 2 to 5 on Tuesday.